ॐ सहनाववतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यङ्करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। समस्तजनकल्याणी निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्। ॐ श्रीचिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः। योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोत्तं प्रवरं मुनीनां पातञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिना नतोऽस्मि। हरि ओम्। In the study of Patanjali Yoga Shastra, we have come up to 17th mantra, and we are at 17th mantra for more than 2 sessions. I'm completely aware of it. And this is a first critical mantra for all of us, not only from Patanjali Yoga Shastra point of view, but even if you want to study Bhagavad Gita properly, if you want to study any of the Upanishads, there are some fundamental aspects that we must get completely in our intellectual grasp so that we are always clear about these aspects whenever we come across them. We are going to come across Sankhya philosophy n number of times in most of the scriptures. So we are trying to have as much clarity as possible. I know so far the introduction has created enough confusion, mainly because of clash between Vedanta and Sankhya of certain terminologies, and that is why there is some confusion. We will definitely try to clear the same today and maybe try to see something in more detail what we have seen earlier. The main aspect to see in Sankhya Tattvajnana, for which they are considered to be the real genius of Kapila Muni, Muninam Kapila Munihi Sreshta. That is why he's called Sreshta Tama as a Muni amongst the Munis in Bhagavad Gita itself, because the biggest gift the Sankhya philosophy, Sankhya Tattvajnana has given to all of us is the understanding of cosmology or Srushti or creation. Srushti Utpatti is so beautifully, crisply, tersely, crystal clearly explained by Sankhyas, and that is why we want to study it. First basic fundamental question is, why should I be studying all this? What is the need? What is the use? The use is, if you know how you have come into being, that means you are a part of the creation. And if you know how the creation has been made, it becomes easier to go out of the creation. If at all you have gone into some bad habit, if you analyze how you have gone into a bad habit, you can slowly come out of the bad habit. That means whenever there is an evolute extension, by regression or by involution, you can come back to where you started. That is why precisely our sthiti, our original nature, our real essence, from there we have come up to here in this form. So the whole process of studying how we have come here, in other words, the process of creation of Srushti. And moment we say Srushti, we have two things in front of us. One is Sthula Srushti, everything around me. Then me, Sukshma Srushti. So myself and the world, the biggest illusion that we have in our mind is there is a world and there is me. No need to convince us for that, because we are already convinced. We are convinced that I am separate from the universe. Am I really separate from the universe or not? That we will come to know if we study the creation of universe and all the issues that we are suffering from, all the types of dukkhas that we are suffering from. That is why the first karika, first sutra of Kapila Muni's Sankhya Tattva Jnana, very first statement is, world is full of adhibhautika, adhidaivika and adhyatmika tapa, and I must get rid of that. That is why Sankhya Tattva Jnana. So right in the beginning, Kapila Muni or the Sankhya Shastra has clearly delineated the purpose of Sankhya Shastra. Purpose of Sankhya Tattva Jnana is to be sorrow-free, dukkha muktata. On a permanent basis, I want to be away from all kinds of sorrows. So the prayojanam is very clear, and that is why all the study. Otherwise, it will become a futile intellectual exercise. It is not a futile intellectual exercise. In fact, we will see the relevance of this Srushti and the creation of Srushti Utpatti when we start studying the Samadhi. The present sutra that we are studying is sounding so difficult. What is Vitarka, Vichara, Asmita, Ananda? It's all sounding Hebrew to us simply because the creation and the Srushti Utpatti is not in our mental scene. So going by the Srushti Utpatti, now we are going with a very fundamental aspect of Sankhya Tattva Jnana's cosmology or Srushti Utpatti. In Srushti Utpatti, the first principle that is considered as the cardinal principle, which is Shuddha, Buddha, Nitya, Mukta, which never does anything, a Kriya, is called Purusha. In other words, it is absolute consciousness. Consciousness per se. If we compare it as an analogy with the light, then we will say it is the sun, Surya. It is all comprising of only and only consciousness. It is the only one. It is the only occupier of the world. So that particular highly sentient or self-sentient Swasamveda Tattva is called Purusha. Hopefully this is easier to understand. Now the question is, we also saw in last two sessions that this being the almighty, all-powerful, omniscient, omnipotent Tattva, there is an ability in this Tattva of potentiating into some kind of creation. This potency to create, this potential energy to create, this energy aspect. Because why would anything be called energy unless it manifests? I'm not talking of potential and kinetic energy. Please mind that. I'm talking of potency of potential energy. Potency of potential energy. Supposing that the water is absolutely still. A still water also has energy into it. Only when it gets accumulated at the dam, it becomes potential energy. And when it activates down the line, it creates electricity called kinetic energy. So we are now talking of Purusha, which is nothing else but just plain simple water. Not stored at one place. That means not yet potentiated. So once it gets potentiated, a very basic question asked in Vedanta as well as Sankhya is, if that so-called consciousness or Purusha was sitting so nicely and beautifully there, why the hell did he create all this potentiate energy and then Prakriti and then everything and then these bodies and then Vishwa and then sorrow? Everything would have been not there. Was it not a better scheme of not making the world rather than making the world? This question comes quite often to our mind. And this question is something which is called as unanswerable at the stage of intellect. unanswerable at the stage of intellect. Why unanswerable? Because the ability of intellect, which is nothing else but part and parcel of the same consciousness which has come down, being a part and parcel, which is called alpadnyata. Being part and parcel, a part cannot comprehend full. A part cannot comprehend full. Sant cannot comprehend ananta. Let us say there is some sentientness in finger. So the finger wants to know who this whole body is. Not possible, because this is already particled into this small thing. This being limited, unlimited cannot be. Relatively unlimited to the finger is my body. Similarly, relative to my intellect, unlimited intellect cannot be comprehended by limited intellect. That's why it is also called a Vyakruta Prashna. That is why many of them who have crossed this border of limited intellect, they say that world has not happened only. And we laugh at it. Gaudapada, Shankaracharya's Acharya, Govindapada's Guru. He said, who says there is world? There is no world. Where is the creation? There is no creation. Now, is it not a laughable thing that how can he say there is no creation? Today itself, I am taking a session. How can you say there is no world? That is because his intellect had crossed the time-space dimension or the limitations of that Santa Buddhi. So from that standpoint, creation hasn't happened. And for that matter, in Vishwarupa Yoga, when Bhagavan showed the Vishwarupa to Arjuna, what was he trying to show? That whatever you're doing has already happened. Already happened means, are there two worlds? One where something has happened and it is getting relayed later on in this world? And then how many worlds, such worlds are there? So these questions put us back to one simple thing, that for a reason that I don't understand, somehow, ekoham bahusyam, let us say that is the word, this creation started. So consciousness potentiated into Prakriti and decided that the creation will begin. So creation will begin, this mode of the energy or the Shakti, which is nothing else but consciousness assuming potency, is called Shakti or Prakriti. This Prakriti comprises or utilizes three instruments called Trigunas for creation. Now, where does she keep those three instruments? No, they are there already with the Prakriti. They just start crystallizing. Imagine there is a lump of mud called Purusha. Now the small lump from that lump is taken out. That process of taken out, Prakriti has started forming. That lump which is taken out, small lump, is now divided into three further lumps, the principal lumps. These three are called as Trigunas. So Trigunas are the instruments of Prakriti for further creation. She will utilize these three balls to mix with each other and create lots of things. Just from the three, she will create everything. Prakriti will create everything. And she's called Prakriti because Prakarshena Krutate. Her job itself is to create. If there is no creation, what is the need of Prakriti? So Prakriti, because that is that principle or tattva which keeps on creating, she's called Prakriti. Prakriti. Prakarshena Krutate. Prakarshena Kriyate. The one which tries to create and create and create. So it is also called, she's delivering every time. She's pregnant, she delivers. So she's also called Bahu Prasava. The one who keeps on delivering. And then delivery is still on. How? Because the modern science says galaxies are still expanding. Still expanding means universe is still getting produced. The creation is still on. Now, whatever has been created then also gets retracted backwards, involution, but that happens at the time of Pralaya. So now Purusha, potentiated into Prakriti, has taken three gunas, and then a tattva, third tattva is formed, which is called Mahat or Buddhi. Let's have very clarity in our mind. Mahat and Buddhi are same. First clarity. Mahat and Buddhi are same. Sometimes parallel names are also used, and we must remember so that we avoid confusion. Prakruti has also a parallel name called Pradhana. It is also called Avyakta. It is also called Moola Prakruti. Prakruti is also called Moola Prakruti, Pradhana, Avyakta. Avyakta because she has not yet expressed. Pradhana because she is principal. Moola Prakriti because she is the basic Prakriti which is yet to differentiate into undifferentiated. That is Moola Prakriti. Next tattva that comes is called Mahat or Buddhi. Now, Mahat and Buddhi, many times we confuse this Buddhi with our Buddhi. Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankara we have, right? So we try to confuse that. Mind well, when we say Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankara, we are talking about a Sukshma creation or small Jiva. Right now we are not talking because Jivas are not yet formed. We are talking at a cosmic level. The universe is now getting produced. So we are talking at cosmic level. At cosmic or Vaishvik Parimana, cosmic level, the Mahat or Buddhi Tattva is formed. Now the question is, we already said that the Prakriti has three instruments in the hand for creation. Now they are coming into action. The first action is, the first instrument called Sattva is thrown into action. So Sattva Guna Varchasva or Sattva Guna Pradhanata is Mahat or Buddhi Tattva. Sattva Guna Pradhanata. Why it is called Mahat? We must know little meaning so that it is easier to remember. Mahat means Mahan, that which keeps on expanding. So it is called Mahat. Mahat is expanding because now Prakriti is becoming Mahan, becoming expanding. So it is called Mahat. If it is called Mahat, then why it is called Buddhi? The reason is, what is the definition of Buddhi? Even for our Buddhi, the same definition applies. That which is Adhyavasaya. The function of Buddhi is Adhyavasaya. What is Adhyavasaya? Determination. Nishchayatmaka Vritti Buddhi. That which decides, determines, Nishchaya. Now the question is, what Nishchaya you are supposed to do at cosmic level? The Nishchaya is of the Prayojana, exactly how the creation is to be created. First, the Buddhi knows. Even our case, if you want to do anything in this world, the first thing is we decide and then we execute, isn't it? First is Prayojana and then we execute. So that Prayojanam, that determination is called Buddhi. That is why Adhyavasayatmaka or Nishchayatmaka Vritti is Buddhi. So it is called Mahat or Buddhi. Recapitulate again so that we don't forget. Purusha, nothing is happening. Happening started, or the mode started Prakriti. Prakriti gave rise to Mahat or Buddhi. And then comes the question that so far, this Mahat which is created, or the Buddhi which is created, or the Nishchay is created, there is no master for that Buddhi. There is no ownership for that Buddhi. Let us take an example. The pain is created. So this is Mahat. Fine, this is created. Whose pain is this? Mine. So somebody has to own this. This ownership is called Ahankara. Whose Mahat, whose Buddhi is answered by the next principle, which is Ahankara. Now what has happened in the world is Purusha gave rise to Prakriti. Prakriti used the three gunas to create Mahat Tattva and Ahankar Tattva. So now there is somebody, some body, somebody is Ahankar. Somebody is Ahankar. Now that somebody, how big it is? He is at the beginning of the creation. So the whole creations, if it's considered as one person, he is that person. To make it more simpler, I will use analogy from Vedanta so it becomes easier. He is called Virata when Ahankar is formed. What is Virata? This is my Sthula Sharira. if all the sthula shariras in the entire creation, I'm not talking only about our world, because there are many creations, Ananta Koti Brahmanda, all these sthula shariras, if they are taken together, there'll be one Purusha walking on this creation. That sthula sharira is called Virata. Then I have Buddhi. If all the Buddhis are brought together, then the cumulative combined Buddhi is called Hiranyagarbha in Vedanta. Hiranyagarbha. So cumulative combined Buddhi of all the creation, Hiranyagarbha. Cumulative combined all the Sthula Shariras is called Virata. In case of Sankhyas, this Mahat or Buddhi is parallel to Hiranyagarbha and the Ahankar is parallel to Virata. I'm trying to take Vedanta simultaneously so that the confusions are avoided. Because creation in Vedanta and creation in Sankhya is slightly different. And they have accepted each other's concept very easily. So they get mixed up also. So far we have seen 4 tattvas: Purusha, Prakriti, Mahat or Buddhi, and Ahankara. Up to this point, it is called a divine creation. Why divine creation? Because nobody is there, no individual is there so far. In this entire creation, there is only Mahat or Buddhi and Ahankara. That means there is one individual, if at all we call it an individual, one person, one individual. This is called divine world. So far, everything is perfect. There is no problem. There is no sorrow. There is nothing. Why? Sattva Guna Adhikya. That is why Mahat Tattva is formed. In Sattva Guna, generally nothing happens because Rajoguna is not there. It's a very, 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 very minor. So nothing, there is potency of Rajoguna and Tamoguna is there, but so far action hasn't started. After the Ahankar Tattva, the action begins. The drama begins at Ahankar level. Up to Ahankar level, things are steady, unified, unitary in nature. Now it will be multiplying. The drama is about to begin. The gong, the bang is started at Ahankara level. How does it start? This Ahankara, as we said, is constituting again of 3 gunas, because one thing is there. 3 gunas, moment Prakriti comes into the picture, 3 gunas are there. Percentages may vary. How much Sattva, how much Raja, how much Tamas, that varies. But always they come in a pack of 3. Percentage may vary. So far up to Ahankar level, it was Sattva Guna who was dominating. Post Ahankar level, at the Ahankar level, now the Tamogun in the Ahankar is going to dominate. The Tamoguna in the Ahankar is going to dominate. Sattva-guna in Ahankar is going to dominate, and the Rajoguna is Ahankar is going to dominate. Depending upon which guna of Ahankar is dominating, further creation happens. Now let us divide 2 things. If Tamoguna of Ahankar is taken for creation, then Nirjiva Srushti is formed. Insentient. The stone, the clay, insentient is from, why? That is the reason why they are dull, steady, no movement. They don't move on their own. Why? They are coming from Tamoguna of Ahankar. So Tamoguna Varchasva. But only Tamoguna cannot act. Why? The movement, the progression means movement. Movement means Rajoguna. So what it does, it takes Tamoguna as a predominant guna and takes Rajas for the help. So Tamoguna Varchasva, Rajoguna Prerana, that forms what is called as Nirjiva Srushti or Nirindriya Srushti. Nirindriya means there are no Indriyas for them. Like stone doesn't have an Indriya. It is insentient, we say. Insentient means it has the lowest possible sentient element into it. It has consciousness. We will come to that little later. So first division at Ahankara is Sajiva Srushti, Nirjiva Srushti. Nirjiva is from Tamoguna Varchasva, but it has to take Rajoguna for creation. So Tamoguna Varchasva, Rajoguna Prerana. Similarly, if it takes Sattva Guna from Ahankara, Sattva Guna Varchasva, again, for the progression, it requires little bit of Rajoguna also. Sattva Guna Varchasva, Rajoguna Prerana, then that avastha is the avastha which is responsible for Sajiva Srushti. Nirjiva Srushti, Sajiva Srushti, sentient, insentient from Tamoguna of Ahankara, sentient from Sattva-guna of Ahankara. So far it should be clear. Purush, Prakriti, Mahat or Buddhi, Ahankara. First four tattvas. Ahankar onwards the drama begins of multiplicity. To create multiplicity, Nirjiva Srushti is created, Sajiva Srushti is created. Nirjiva from the Tamoguna of Ahankara and Sajiva from Sattva-guna of Ahankara. Now what happens is, this Sattva-guna, let us come to the Sajiva side first. This Sattva-guna of Ahankara, which is Sattva-guna Varchasva with Rajoguna Prerana, it forms 5 Jnanendriyas. Why? Because Sattva-guna is more. Jnanendriya have higher Sattva-guna. Jnanendriyas are superior. Superior because of Sattva-guna being superior. So, Shrotram, Tvak, Chakshu, Rasana and Grahana. In simple word, ears, eyes, nose, the tongue and the sense of smell. So, Shrotram, Tvak, Chakshu, Rasana and Grahana. These are 5 Jnanendriyas. These 5 are formed from Sattva Guna of Ahankara. So each of them are having Sattva Guna. Again, the golden principle is, when we say Sattva Guna, that doesn't mean other gunas are absent. When we say Sattva Guna, means dominant Sattva Guna. So let us say Shrotra, Tvak, Chakshu, Grahana and Rasana, they have, let's say 90% Sattva Guna and 5% Raja and Tamaguna. Why? Because if the Chakshu is formed from 100% Sattva Guna, it will not act. Why? For action you require Rajoguna. So I have eyes but I can't see. This cannot happen. Then what is the point in having the eye? So moment you get into Sattva Guna, that is why you see how these gunas are so critical and so beautiful as a concept in Sankhya Tattva Jnana. When you are into any of your action and when Sattva Guna dominates you, your Rajoguna goes down. So you have less actions, less vichara, less everything. So somebody like Gurudeva, when he was involved into meditation, the breathing was going on. Rajoguna was only to the extent of breathing, maybe sweating a little bit. You require Rajoguna for that. Rest everything was pure Sattva Guna. Similarly, Jnanendriyas are pure Sattva Gunas. Shrotra, Tvak, Chakshu, Rasana, Grahana. These are 5. Now imagine, again this Sattva Guna from each Jnanendriya is taken together. Sattva Guna from these Jnanendriyas, if they're accumulated together, each of them are having Sattva Guna, but that is with Raja and Tama. Let us say the Sattva Guna from Jnanendriya is taken together, then what is formed is called Mana or Manas. It is called Mana or Manas. That means again, Purusha, Prakriti, Mahat or Buddhi, Ahankara, Sattva Guna forming 5 Jnanendriyas and dominant Sattva Guna of all 5 gunas cumulatively together forms Mana or mind. This is Sukshma Sharira formation of Sajiva. Any Sajiva, if you take, this is this. Then comes the question that if that is the same kind of manufacturing for everybody, why everybody is different? Everybody is different mainly because of quantum of Sattva Guna. Instruments we are seeing now, Tattva we are saying. But a slight difference in guna also makes you directly between animal and the human beings. The difference then goes by gunas. Higher the sattva guna, more evolved you are. Devas or Gandharvas have a very high sattva guna. Manushya has relatively lesser than that. Then coming down to the Tiriyak Yoni or the animals, it is still further lesser than that. So that is how one section Sajiva we have seen, by which Jnanendriyas are formed. Now, similarly, from the Rajoguna prominence of this particular Ahankara. Now, Satoguna was dominant, Jnanendriyas were formed. Rajoguna dominance of Ahankara, Karmendriyas are formed. So we have Vak, Pani, Pada, Upastha, Payu, hand, feet, and organs of procreation, organs of defecation, and the speech. These five, because they keep on doing karmas. They don't give jnana. They act on jnana. Jnanendriyas give the jnana. They receive from surroundings and give us a jnana. Karmendriyas receive the command from the post jnanendriya and then they act. So they are called karmendriyas. So Vak, Pani, Pada, Upastha, Payu, these are five karmendriyas. So we have five jnanendriyas coming from sattva guna of ahankar element. Five karmendriyas coming from rajoguna element of ahankar element. And the five jnanendriyas, sattva guna coming together forms the mana. So that is how five jnanendriyas, five karmendriyas, and one mana. 11 tattvas are called sukshma tattvas. With this, the jivas are formed. The sentient things are formed like this. So this completes the sentient things. Now, what about insentient? What happens to them further? The first thing we saw that insentient or nirjiv is formed from the tamoguna of Vaikruta Ahankar. This tamoguna of Ahankar first forms what is called as potentials for Mahabhuta. Tamoguna of Ahankar forms, because of Tamoguna Varchasva, forms five objects, five sukshma tanmatras. What is tanmatra? Let us say tanmatra is intangible. For example, let us say there is a government officer working in an office. You can actually see a government officer working. So we call government officer as he is the government officer. Okay. Show me where is his power as a government officer. You can't show it, but it is vested in him. So the first thing is what? First thing is power. Then the person is attached to that power and he becomes an officer. Similarly, tanmatra. Suppose you say that shabda tanmatra, sparsha tanmatra. So first thing is that shabda, sparsha, rupa, rasa, gandha, these are the powers, indefinable entities, which then become solidified like an officer into the five Pancha Mahabhutas. So the Pancha Mahabhutas are solidly objectified things, while the Tanmatras are the invisible, powerful, previous things. That's why the analogy taken is between a power and officer. Power is vested in a person by so and so name. But that time, even that name is not important. We call him as a police officer. He is a normal person like us. So he has no entity, but he is vested with the power. So the power which is not definable is lying somewhere behind, coming from the government, gets vested in that officer. Similarly, tanmatras are pure powers, which then gets fructified, objectified into Pancha Mahabhutas. I hope the word tanmatra is clear. Question is here, why it is called tanmatra? The vigraha for tanmatra is tatmatra. Tat means that only element. What is this? Why it is called that only element? It is because when we have this Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala and Prithvi, these five tattvas in the purest form, purest invisible form are pure in nature. So that is what is called tat or tan matra. Then what is this business of pure and impure? When these pure elements called tanmatra are then produced into an object called prithvi, jala, and whatever we see as a water, etc., at that point of time, they get mixed with each other. These pure tanmatras, pure elements of prithvi, akasha, vayu, jala, and agni, they get mixed with each other and then they are seen as formed. That is why this mixing is called panchikarana. Let us say God is sitting in the workshop and on his right side there is a bench on which there are 5 lumps of mud of different color. Those 5 are, one is pink, green, they're pure in color. So these 5 lumps of pure nature are called tanmatras. They're kept on the desk. Then Lord takes half of the first lump. Let us say Akash is the first lump. He took half of it. And remaining 4, he takes 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter and mixes with this. This is called Panchikarana. Half of the first main element, remaining half of that element is formed by 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter, 1 quarter. So that is why, sorry, not 1 quarter, 1/8. So each of these remaining elements get mixed with the main element and then what we know as Prithvi, Jala, Akash is formed. So these are called as a Sthula Mahabhuta, which are mixed one, Panchikarana Kruta, mixed one. While the Sukshma Mahabhutas are pure in nature, Tanmatra. So they are called as Tanmatra. So now from those Tanmatras, where did the Tanmatras come from? Tamoguna of Ahankar. So Purusha, Prakriti, Mahat or Buddhi, Ahankar. First 4 tattvas. From Ahankar, the drama began in Sajiva and Nirjiva, or Sthula Srushti and Sukshma Srushti, whatever you call it. In case of Sajiva, from the Sattva Guna of Ahankar, 5 Jnanendriyas and Man is formed, mind, and from the Rajoguna, Karmendriyas are formed. Then from Tamoguna of Ahankara, Tanmatras are formed, pure elements, and then mixing of Tanmatras gives rise to what is called as Sthula Bhuta. And the Srushti is complete, created, done. If we see now in a reverse manner, what is everywhere? Aham Brahma Nacha Bhuta Sangaha. Our prayer is Aham Nacha Bhuta Sangaha. Bhuta Sangha. Everything is nothing else but these Pancha Mahabhutas, which are Sthula, coming together, forming these things. So for us, it is tree, this is animal, this is that, but all Sthula Shariras are composed of nothing else but the Pancha Mahabhutas. Now we got a very relevant question. Where are the pranas? You did not speak about pranas at all. That is because Sankhyas do not consider pranas into their tattvas. This is a difference between Vedanta. What we considered here as a Pancha Tanmatra in Sukshma Sharira, Vedanta considers Pancha Pranas as Sukshma in the Sukshma Sharira. We are going to come to the difference between Vedanta and Sankhya in creation. But first, let us be clear about Sankhya creation. In Sankhya creation, pranas are not mentioned. Amongst the tattvas, you will not find pranas. Actually, we saw that in Pancha Jnanendriyas, the Sattva part comes together in a lump form to form Manas. Similarly, from the Rajogunatmak Karmendriya, all the Rajogunas come together to form Pancha Pranas, but that is not in Sankhya, that is in Vedanta. So for Sankhyas, we are very clear. In short, Purush, Pradhan, Mahat or Buddhi, Ahankar. First 4 cardinal elements, divine creation, up to this no multiplication. From Ahankara onwards, creation starts. Sajiva, Nirjiva. From the Sattva guna of from the Sattva guna of the Ahankara, Jnanendriyas, from Rajoguna, Karmendriyas, from Tamoguna, first Tanmatra, and then Sthula Mahabhuta. That is how the creation of Sankhyas gets completed. Then, now we need to know, if this is how Sankhyas are created, then how the difference is with the Vedanta. And then we know the differences between the two. Now we are talking about Vedanta. Please keep aside whatever is learnt of Sankhya. There we have a Purusha. No word Brahman was pronounced there. Now we are talking about Shuddha Buddha Nishchala, similar to Purusha, Brahma. Now the question is, in case of Sankhyas, the creation started because of Prakruti. In case of Brahman also, again, for that reason which is not known to us, which our buddhi cannot understand, maybe for Ekoham Bahusyam, etc., etc., the Brahma also potentiates, and the creation starts because of Ajnana. There is a slight difference, if you can note this. The creation is starting because of Ajnana. Why Ajnana? Because the very basic concept of Vedanta is Utpatti Paramarthataya Asatyam. The world is not created. How can I give you the creation? So first they say that Utpatti is not there. However, because you feel it is there, let me tell you, that's their standpoint. Their standpoint is that it is not existing. It feels it is existing, though it is not existing. We don't see that in Sankhya. In Vedanta, it says, so creation has not happened. However, because you feel it is so, then let me explain why it is so. And that is because of Ajnana. And what is Ajnana? Whenever anything takes a cover of anything for the consciousness, a cover for consciousness, this cover is called Upadhi. Cover is called Upadhi. For example, in the ball pen, that pen is there, this entire cover is a Upadhi for the refill. The refill is inside. That is the one which writes. But this all external thing, yellow color, button, whatever press, this is all Upadhi. Donning the exterior of the critical interior is called Upadhi. So that means Ajnana Upadhi Karanat Jagat Prakriya. That is the principle of Vedanta. There was, and there will be only one consciousness. However, because of ignorance, avidya, nescience, ignorance, ajnana, because it dawns upadhi, and upadhi leads to what is called as creation. Once the upadhi is dawned, then that particular ajnana, this ajnana is comparable to the prakruti here. This ajnana is comparable to the prakruti in Sankhya. This ajnana is trigunatmaka. Now here you will find these trigunas are taken from Sankhya to Vedanta also. Now they call it this ajnana or prakruti as trigunatmaka, and these trigunas in samyavastha. That means they are in the balanced nature, sattva rajatuma. Up to this point, the creation has not started. Vedanta believes that moment there is a change in the balance of the gunas, the creation starts. Now comes the question, if this particular ajnana has sattva guna dominance into it, so ajnana sattva guna prakarsha is called maya. In the ajnana, where sattva guna dominates, I am completely aware that normally we say Brahma and then Maya. But if you see Vedanta in critical manner, it is Brahma and Ajnana. Ajnana, When it is dominated by sattva guna prakarsha, it is called maya. It is because it is pure dominance of sattva. Pure dominance of sattva. In fact, it is not tainted with rajoguna and tamoguna. Very, 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 very little. Again, the cardinal principle is nothing can be pure. That is true. But it is so insignificant that it can be said only sattvaguni. Sattvaguna varchasva or sattvaguni. So ajnana sattvaguna prakarsha is called maya. Then similarly, if the ajnana has got sattva guna but not so much dominance, rajoguna and tamoguna is dominant, then it is called avidya. Then it is called avidya. Avidya forms the jiva and maya gives rise to Ishvara. The consciousness or the Brahma that we saw, it's in this creation, it is not leaving the creation just like that. It is simultaneously traveling with it. When it enters into Maya, when Chaitanya enters into Maya, Chaitanya Maya combination, in technical words, Shastriya Paribhasha, Chaitanya's Pratibimba in Maya or Chaitanya Maya combination is Ishvara. And the Sattva Guna Shabala Adnyana, that means Sattva Guna which is tainted with Raja and Tama, which forms the Jiva, when it gets consciousness into it, it forms the Jiva. So Malina Sattva Guna Yukta Chaitanya Jiva. Shuddha Sattva Guna Yukta Chaitanya Ishvara. What is avidya? It is for individual jiva. What is maya? For the entire world. Both are ajnana. One is called maya, one is called avidya. Avidya restricted to jiva and maya restricted to the whole world. Maya has chaitanyam also in, because chaitanyam is everywhere. So maya, when it is combined with chaitanya, it becomes Ishvara. Because maya is a shuddha sattva guni, Ishvara controls the maya. In avidya, because the avidya is malina sattva guna, jiva controls the chaitanya. That is why it becomes alpadnya. That is why in our body, the jiva tries to control the chaitanya or utilize the chaitanya the way it wants, which is, that is why it is alpadnya. There it is the Ishvara which controls the maya. So he is sarvadnya. This is up to the level of maya or avidya division between jiva and Ishvara. See, the difference between Sankhya and Vedanta is more keen on separating Ishvara. Now this Ishvara Tattva itself is not there in Sankhya, because Sankhya are not Nirishwar. There is no Ishwar in Sankhya. It is in Yoga. Yoga Shastra, it is there. Sankhya, there is no Ishwar. While in Advaita, Ishwar forms the dominant role, because Maya Adhishtita Chaitanyam, it is Ishwaram. Maya is Shuddha Sattva Guna. So that is where you will see slight differences between the creation of Vedanta and Sankhya. One of the reasons why we are trying to study this together is because in both the places Samadhi is mentioned. In both the darshanas, the sadhana is done in the similar manner. And in both the darshanas, they utilize their respective srushti creation for doing the sadhana. That is why we are studying so much into detail and bothering our head. Now that you have Maya, we have now come up to the point of Ishvara and Jiva. Ishvara is Vishuddha Sattva Guna Upadhi of Maya. That means in case of Ishvara, it is covered by Ajnana. Jiva covered by Ajnana. Ajnana for Jiva is called Avidya. Ajnana for Ishvara is called Maya. Since Ajnana is covering, both these are called as Avarana. Both of these are called as Avarana because Ajnana is Avarana. Now the question is, this up to this level, there is only Avarana. After this, what is going to happen is the creation of Sthula and Sukshma Srishti. The creation of Sthula and Sukshma Srishti. We have already seen that Ajnana is the beginning of creation. Like the way in Sankhya is Ahankara, here it is Ajnana. Ajnana creating Maya, Ajnana creating Jiva. So, Ishvara and Jiva. Both these places we saw dominance of Sattva. If it differs, what happens? If it is pure Sattva, Maya and Ishvara. If it is Malina Sattva, tinted with Rajoguna and Tamoguna, Jiva is formed. Up to this point, it is fine. So far, we were talking about the play of Sattva Guna of Ajnana. Now, Tamoguna of Ajnana, the Ajnana has Sattva and Tama both, Sattva Rajatama, of which Sattva is taken to form this Maya and this. Tamoguna is taken to form the Tanmatras. Same as Sankhya. There it is Tamoguna of Ahankara, here it is Tamoguna of Ajnana. The words have differed only. This Tamoguna of Ajnana forms what is called as Tanmatra. Same as Tanmatra. And we saw Tanmatra, what are the Shabda Tanmatra, Sparsha Tanmatra, Rupa Tanmatra, Rasa Tanmatra, Gandha Tanmatra. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Tanmatra, pure elements. Tatmatra, pure elements. Same way here also the Tanmatras are formed. Then these Tanmatras are again mixed into Panchikarana, same as Sankhya. They are formed. There they say after Panchikarana, you get Sthula Mahabhuta. In Vedanta, it goes a step forward and says that Sthula Mahabhutas then create Saptalokas. What is called a Chaturudasha Bhuvana Brahmanda. What is Chaturdasha Bhuvana Brahmanda? Like layers after layers are formed, 7 on the top, 7 on the bottom. Top of Prithvi, 7 on the bottom of the Prithvi. What is in the bottom is called as, these are called as Atala, Vitala, Sutala, Talatala, Mahatala, and Patala, down below. While as we go up, Bhuvaha, Swaraha, Mahaha, Janaha, Tapaha, and Satyalok. So there are 7 experiential states or seven worlds built on the top, 7 worlds built on the down. And in this, then the Shariras are formed from this Sukshma Mahabhutas, Sthula Mahabhutas. They are called as Jarayuja, Andayuja, depending upon how they are born from the eggs, born from the sweat, etc. So 4 types of Shariras, Jarayuja, Andaja, Swedaja, and Udbija. 14 lokas, and these Shariras, this is what the external creation is, which is called as Sthula Srushti, which is coming from Ajnana Tamoguna. Ajnana Sattvaguna is forming Maya and Jiva. We saw that. Now, the way Jnanendriyas formed in Sankhya is same in Vedanta also. Sukshma Sharira comprises of Jnanendriya, Karmendriya, Mana. Only thing is, in Vedanta, in Sukshma Sharira, 5 pranas are also given importance. So, from the Ajnana Tamoguna, Sthula Srishti is formed. From Ajnana Sattva Guna, Jnanendriyas, Karmendriyas, and Pancha pranas are formed. Jnanendriyas are from Sattva Guna of Ajnana. Karmendriyas are from Rajoguna of Ajnana. And the Pancha pranas that we have, what are they? All the Rajogunas of Karmendriya, from which the Karmendriyas are formed, if they are collected together in a lump form, that combined element of Rajoguna forms the pranas. That's why pranas keep moving. In, out, in, out, in, out. Prana, udana, vyana, apana, and samana, they keep moving. Movement means rajoguna. So that is why they are cumulative, combined rajogunas together. So they are powerful than the individual rajoguna like hasta, pada. These are also rajogunas, but they are individually represented cumulatively. So they are more powerful. So more powerful rajoguna is there in the pranas. That's why we try to regulate them. If they are not regulated, then they do what they are doing. If they are regulated, then they can lead us to something else. That is why we are going to study this little bit more in detail when we study pranayama. When we'll be doing Ashtanga Yoga in Sadhana Pad. That time we are going to study, so we will not dwell about, because it's quite a very lengthy topic. So we have Pancha Pranas coming from Rajoguna Samoha. Similarly, from Sattva Guna Samoha, Mana is coming. The only difference between Sankhya and Vedanta is Sankhya says Man and Buddhi. These are the only two things. Man is prime, and from that Buddhi comes. So Mana Buddhi. But in Vedanta, sometimes Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankar, fourfold applications are agreed upon. Sometimes in Vedanta, we say Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankar. But actually it is one entity only called Mana, which functionally becomes fourfold, Mana Buddhi Chitta Ahankar. So from Vedanta standpoint, if we follow Vidyaranya Swami, then Man and Buddhi, these are the only two evolutes. There is no need to call Chitta and Ahankar because they are part and parcel of Man and Buddhi, according to Vidyaranya. So now, what is the difference? We saw Vedanta, we saw Sankhya. What is the difference? In case of Sukshma Sharira of Sankhya, 5 Jnanendriya, 5 Karmendriya, 5 Tanmatra. In case of Advaita, 5 Jnanendriya, 5 Karmendriya, 5 Prana. Tanmatra and Prana is the difference in the Sukshma Sharira. In case of Antakarana, Sankhya says Mana Buddhi Ahankar, Vedanta says Man and Buddhi. That's the second difference. So if you take the number of elements or tattvas, in case of Sukshma Sharira, in Sankhya there are 18 tattvas, while in Vedanta there are 17 tattvas. How? Sukshma Sharira of Vedanta is 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Tanmatras, and Manabuddhi Ahankar. So 18. In Vedanta, Sukshma Sharira is 5 Jnanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, 5 Pranas, not Tanmatra, 5 Pranas, and 2 Antakarna, 17 Tattvas. This is something in little bit in detail about the difference between Sankhya and Vedanta. Our present topic of discussion is Sankhya Tattvajnana. We did discussion about Vedanta for having a comparison to not to have confusion more in the mind. Sankhya Tattvajnana, we saw how the creation has happened. We saw what is called as a bare skeleton of the creation of Sankhya Tattvajnana. Next session, we are going to see the practical application of this particular, how we are going to use this for the sadhana. That is much more interesting. It is functional application. This is structural application of Sankhya Tattvajnana. To recapitulate, Sankhya Tattvajnana, Purusha, Prakriti, Mahat or Buddhi, Ahankar. First 4 tattvas, divine creation. Up to Ahankar, nothing has separated into individual entities. Post Ahankar, division starts. The division is between Sajiva, Nirjiva, or Sendriya and Nirindriya. From the Sattva Guna of Ahankar, Jnanendriyas are formed. From Rajo Guna, Karmendriyas are formed. And from Tamo Guna, Srushti, Sthula Srushti is created first as Tanmatra, then as Sthula Mahabhuta through Panchikarana. The Samuha of Sattva Guna of all Jnanendriyas forms Mana. The combined element of Sattva of all Jnanendriyas is Mana. Combined element of all Karmendriyas forms the Pranas. However, Sankhyas do not mention Pranas as Tattva, while in Vedanta it is mentioned as Tattva. This is a short brief of how the creation has been created. The reason why we intend to do this is some common observations can be made. What is a common observation? Everything is Trigunatmaka. Everything is Trigunatmaka because Trigun started at Prakruti level and then it came down. It is all combination and permutation of Trigunas that is creating everything. Another thing, everything has come from one point, has become multiple down the line. So there is a possibility of winding up the multiplicity and going to the unitary state. Going from unitary state to multiplicity is called as Utkranti or evolution. Going from multiplicity towards the unity or unitary status is called involution. It is called Layavad. So A gave rise to B, B gives rise to C, C gave rise to D. Now what you do? You merge D into C, then you merge C into B, then you merge B into A. This is called Layavad. Layavad. How do we do it? In what manner can we do it? Is the study of Samadhi. We are going to see that. And then we will understand why word like Vitarka, Vichara, Asmita, Ananda, why they are used. And all this creation that we saw are the objects of concentration. To go back, every time you concentrate, one level is annihilated. What will be the first level? The Sthula. The Sthula is first annihilated. Then Sukshma, it is annihilated. Then Sthula, Sukshma, prior to that, Ahankar, that will be annihilated. And then we go back towards Purusha. So this going backward is Samadhi process or sadhana, which we are going to see. We are going to see the functional application of this structure of Sankhya in this sutra as well as in the Samadhi. But before doing anything, it is cardinal to understand the creation, Sankhya way, and a slight difference that the Vedanta has. Factually, they have mixed up so much. Some of the words are used so often that they're quite misleading to us. For example, we normally tend to say Brahma Maya. Brahma is ancient, the conscious principle, and then the Maya, which is Achetana. This is how normally is in the mind, which is not wrong. It is a grosser remembrance of what. But ideally, it is Brahma and Ajnana. Ajnana then of two types. One is Maya and one is Avidya. Avidya Kruta Ajnan gives rise to Jiva. Maya Kruta Ajnan gives rise to Ishvara. This is a technical or a scientific division into it. Although loosely, the word Maya is used in much larger connotation. The way Prakriti is used in larger connotation, we saw Prakriti is a mode of operation, not an object. But these are minor details. Hopefully, we are now clear about the structure. There would be questions. They are most welcome. The idea is more clearer we are about the structure, more easier for us to understand the application of this structure in sadhana. Because right in the beginning, the first karika of Sankhya, the first sutra of Sankhya, Kapil Muni says, all this is being done for alleviating the sorrow. We should not be deviating our sight from the goal. The goal is to become Dukkha Mukta. The goal is not to study and become Pandit out of this. The goal is to become Dukkha Mukta. But to know that, we must know what we are doing. Knowing what we are doing is by knowing how the structure of the whole creation is. That is why cosmology, Srushti Utpatti, is so critical. And what we discussed just now is from the pure Sankhya Sahitya. Sankhya Sahitya of Kapil Muni. Kapil Muni's nothing is available. Kapil Muni's, this was said by Kapil Muni. That is how other Rishis down the line wrote. One of the first Karika of Sankhya came from Sankhya Karika by Ishwar Krishna. That was before Christ in 2nd century. He was the first to write. That time maybe Kapil Muni's writing was existing. So he copied from there. So that is how we come to know about Kapila's sutras through these people. So Ishwar Krishna, then our Vachaspati Mishra, Sarvatantra Swatantra Muni. He has also written Sankhya Tattva Kaumudi. Then our Gaudapada, Sankhya Karika. Gurudev has written a commentary on Gaudapada Sankhya Karika, which is beyond excellence. Unbelievable commentary he has written. So these people have written, we have taken the extract from that. Today's Sankhya Tattvajnan, what we study, is based on these pure absolute references. So hopefully that is clear to us. We will clarify all the doubts. Once we are clear about it, then only we will go to the 17th mantra. Hari Om. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Om Sanjay ji.
Hari Om.
So this, can we say this prana is Rajoguna Varchasva and Rajoguna Prerana?
Absolute. Huh? It is.
Okay.
It is.
Okay.
It is. Correct. You are absolutely correct. Because Rajoguna doesn't require a prerana by itself. Because Rajoguna itself is a prerana.
Okay.
Yes.
Very good.
Sanjay ji, one quick question. We get an idea of, say, Desha, because that is tangible. But we do not get an idea of Kala. In this explanation, where does this fit in? Where does time fit in?
Yes. The Kala is the time when we say the point of creation itself, down the line from the point of creation up to the end point, Kal dominates. The question only is, the Kala dimension is even applicable to Tanmatras. Kala application is applicable to Sthula Bhutas. So as we start going backwards, each of these elements have time impregnated into it. However, there is a technique of dissociating time from everything. What I'm trying to say is, suppose this is a particular pen which I'm holding right now. So I'm referring to the Kala, but I have an ability to extract Kalam from this and then see the object itself. So each thing of creation is delimited by space and time, but can be off limit of space and time by ekagrata or concentration. In fact, now when we are going to see the Samadhi, the word you will be using is nirvichara and savichara. Nirvitarka and savitarka. That's ni and sa. That upasarga that we are using is with time and space, without time and space. So time and space, because moment the creation started, the space and time started. So time and space will be transcended. Will it be transcended at the beginning where it started? No, it can be transcended at each level. Time and space is impregnated right beginning creation till the end of creation. From the beginning. So we are talking at Prakruti level up to the last, that is the Sthula Bhuta or the Sthula Sharira level, time and space is there. But every time as we start focusing and concentrating, at each level you can dissociate time and space. You don't have to wait till go to back and then dissociate it. That is why at each state, if you do the dhyanam with time and space, it becomes savichara, savitarka. If you do the same dhyanam with dissociation of time and space, nirvichara, nirvitarka. But how is that, how to transcend the space and time? See, we can speak about it, but to intellectually grapple it is very difficult. To see anything without space and time is frightening. We don't know how to do it because we have never done it. But that is what we are going to see in the subsequent sessions. We will be focusing more on time and space. So for the answer of your question, Kalam is there moment the creation starts. It is impregnated at each stage of creation. However, as far as dissociating Kalam and space is concerned, it can be done at each level of concentration. So we get used to first Sthula Mahabhuta, take some object in front of you, concentrate on it, focus on it with time and space, then remove time and space and focus. So then you have completed one stage. Then remove this and take the Tanmatra behind it, because this is an object, Sthula Bhut. Then take Sukshma Bhut and focus on it with time and space, Sukshma Bhut, without time and space, Sukshma Bhut. Okay, that is done. Go to the next stage. Now focus where? Focus on your Buddhi. Sir, but Buddhi cannot be seen. That is what the third stage is. Something that is not seen. Tanmatra, can you see Tanmatra? No, but you can focus on it. Then you'll ask me, how can you focus on something which is not seen? That ability is developed when Sthula is focused properly. Each door opens the next door. So you then comes a stage, then you focus on your Buddhi, then you go still backwards. That is a Asmita stage, Ahankara. You remember that from Ahankara everything started. You focus on Ahankara. So because you're going backward. Once you focus on Ahankara and everything is gone up to Ahankara level, you are aware what you are doing. Because we already saw that Ahankara is where the feeling comes that I. Once that Ahankara comes, then you go beyond Ahankara into that Mahat or Buddhi, Prakriti and Purusha. You go there. These three stages of the top cannot be written. That is where you say Neti Neti in this stage. Up to that point you can know. We'll see that all when we see the Samadhi.
Now, do we have time, Himanshuji?
Sure.
Okay. I was trying to understand the difference between Sankhya Yoga and Vedanta, in which I just wanted to understand Adi Shankaracharya, who is the creator of Advaita Vedanta. He in his Dakshinamurti Stotra, in the 9th stanza, he says that Buram Bhasya Nalo Nilombara Mahardatho Himanshu Kuman Itya Bhati Characharatmakaidam Yasyaiva Murtyashtakam. Now, in this, what he wants to say is that this creation, he uses the word Characharatmaka. The
Yes.
Charachar which is created is Ashtamurti Rupa. It has got 8 elements, which is Prithvi, Pani, Agni, Vayu, Akash, Surya, Chandra, and last he says Puman. Puman is Purusha. So I was wondering that how there can be expression of Purusha. Purusha, here it means, is it not pure conscious or it is just conscious of Jivatma?
No. The confusion is very clear. Where it says Puman, which refers to Purusha, but this is not the Purusha of Sankhya. It is a Purusha. Puman is a reference to the consciousness that is presiding in every Upadhi. So when he says 8 elements, he's talking about Ashtada Prakriti. The same Surya, Chandra and Puman is called Mana, Buddhi, Ahankara. These are the same things because these are the presiding deities. Now we are going to come to later on to what is presiding deity. We are going to see Adi Bhautika, Adi Daivika and Adhyatmak in the next session, which is a very critical session. Because entire creation we are trying to see, and while seeing the creation, we feel as if the consciousness is nowhere mentioned. The fact is consciousness is there from the beginning till the end. To give you an example, if there is a government of India, we know there is a prime minister, then there are ministers, then there are state government, there are state ministers, then there are officers. So every time you see an officer, we don't say there is a new government, we say there is a new presiding officer. So similarly, the consciousness is flowing from top to the bottom in all the officials, but the officials officiate in different names. Similarly, the consciousness, when it starts in the beginning, it starts from the Purusha level of Sankhya or Brahman of Vedanta. And while coming down, at each level, consciousness is there in different forms, different upadhi. So that is why in Dakshinamurti Stotram, he is referring to the Ashtada Prakriti in this particular Achar, insentient, which is mentioning. He says, what is there everywhere except Dakshinamurti? Because the consciousness is what is pervading the 8 elements, which has made this a Sushobhita. It has ornamented the whole creation by being into it. That is what exactly the Bhagavan also says in Bhagavad Gita. I am into everything, yet I am not that. What he's trying to say is that upadhi you take out, then I am into it. And if you look at upadhi, and if you call me I am there, I will not be there. So, hum sab ma, sab hami ma, hum hai bahuri akela. I am into everything, everything is in me, and I am away from everything. That is one part. And second is in Vedanta, the whole thing starts in the beginning with Maya and Ishwara. That itself is the diversion from Sankhya, because Sankhyas do not believe in Ishwara. And another surprising thing is, Sankhyas do not mention pranas in the creation. However, they have given maximum emphasis on pranas as far as the sadhana is concerned. So that is a subtle difference between the two. Hari Om.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hari Om, Sanjay ji. Just a quick question again before concluding the session. Basically, the difference between Sankhya philosophy and the Vedanta is Tanmatra and Pran. Pran is not given, mentioned or created in the Sankhya philosophy. Now, when we look at in the general, those who are following the Vedanta and those who are following the Sankhya philosophy, Vedanta philosophy following people are more God conscious, or it is there is no difference between these two?
Yes,
because Pran is not there, no, in the Sankhya. So
no,
in Vedanta,
let us be very clear. Prana is not there in Sankhya is not the statement. The statement is in the creation of Srushti, pranas are not mentioned in Sankhya. That doesn't mean that they do not give credence to prana. They do give credence to prana, because that is why the pranayam is there. But what we are saying is in Tattva, when they say Tattva, Sankhyas are very clear. There are only 25 Tattvas. There is no 26, there is no 24. So pranas are not there in the Tattvas. That is first part. Second part is that regulatory controlling authority, Sankhya say it is not required, because these three gunas keep on working on themselves. Why do you require a regulating authority? While Vedanta says, even though all this is there, some creator, some regulator has to be there. That some regulator is Ishwara. That's a cardinal difference between Sankhya and Vedanta. Sankhya says, you don't require. Why? It is a niyam. It is going on its own. It's an automated machine. Why do you require a regulator or a controller? It controls itself. While Vedanta says, no, Ishvara controls everything, and that is the reason for it. The reason is, Vedanta says, if Ishvara is the controller of everything, niyamatmaka, if his Ishvara is there, then it is better to worship him first, and it is easier for us to worship somebody because Manavi Mana, human mind, is inclined to look at somebody as a guardian. Somebody sitting there up in the sky and regulating. This gives us a better feeling. If we say there is nobody, it gives a feeling of anarchy in the mind. Some kind of confusion in the mind. While Sankhya says that why you should be confused. It's an automated thing. It's a machine. Yantra rudham mayaya. 18th adhyaya. What the Lord says, I am yantra rudha. Everything has been mechanized, and I have spun the machine into the action. If the machine has been spun into the action, then why do you need somebody to control it? That is what Sankhya's Yuktivad is. So there is a slight difference between the two. However, Vedanta and Sankhya, they have mixed with each other so well, they have gelled so well. Can you point out differences in Bhagavad Gita? Where is Sankhya and where is this thing? In fact, Bhagavan has used the word Sankhya for Jnani. So Sankhya has been almost merged with Vedanta. Vedanta has, that is why sometimes Shankaracharya has been accused and is called as crypto-Buddhist. It says that Shankaracharya has somehow usurped the ideas from others and have painted some picture and then inserted into Vedanta. There are some allegations. No, he was a giant intellect. However, he brought this concept of Maya, and Advaita has been existing much before Shankaracharya. He brought specifically the concept of Maya to overcome a basic problem of Sankhya. The problem with Sankhya was, if Purusha does nothing, Prakriti does everything, Prakriti on its own cannot do anything. Purusha is not interested in anything. Then how they come together? A person, a Purusha, is not interested in anything. He doesn't do anything. He's just sitting. And there is Prakriti who on her own cannot do anything. She requires Purusha's help. Then how do they come together? Sankhyas do not give answer to this. In entire Sankhya Karika, one of the classical argument against Sankhya is there is no explanation for that. That is why Shankaracharya introduced the concept of Maya and Vivartatavad and Anirvichaniya Khati. Is it Satya? Yes. Is it Asatya? Yes. So the Shankaracharya says the world is Satya as well as Asatya as well as not both. Sat, Asat, Vilakshana. That is called Anirvachaniya Khati. This is a new way of looking at things. Vivartatavad and Anirvachaniya Khati is a contribution of Shankaracharya. So that is how the differences are there, but they have merged and amalgamated with each other. So the methodology of narration is different in Sankhya and Vedanta. The destination is the same. Both of them are Satkaryavadi. Both of them believe in that fundamental principle. They are not Parinamavadi. The fundamental principle is same. So that is why these differences we are seeing simply because we are now student of Yoga Shastra. And another reason why we are going into so many details of mind-breaking details is because we want to study Samadhi in absolute correctness.
Sanjay ji, two quick clarifications. One, where are you referring to the objective of studying this is about happiness? So where is that coming from? That's a quick one. The second one, I know there are different sources of knowledge as we have seen. So there's Shabd Praman and there's inference. So yes. The fact that we are talking about very basic question, but the fact that we are saying Satgun is superior to Tamas is superior to, how is the superiority of Satgun coming? Is it through inference or is it directly stated that that is superior, that Satgun is superior to the other gunas?
The first question is, if we are trying to get rid of dukkha, how does this all help? This all helps because this creation, the way it has happened, in this creation, the individuality or individualization happens to the jiva. This individualization is the reason. That means me considering myself as an individual and me considering myself as this body is the main reason why I am suffering. If this is the main reason, then why did I believe like this is given through this creation so that I can undertake a sadhana to confirm my disbelief that I am not the body. Moment you disconfirm it, then dukkham is over. That is what the Sankhya's say. Sankhya's say, study how the whole creation is there, find out where you are in that, just rewind the whole clock and you are done. That is why we are studying this. This is one. Second is, why Satuguna is superior, etc. It is not only by inference or anuman. We are all students of Vedanta. We believe in Shabda Praman. Amongst all the Pramanas, the most important Pramanas is Shabda Pramana. Shabda of whom? Of the realized souls who have already reached there. Why we believe that this is what it is? It could be some other Srishti creation. No. This is given by Kapila Muni, who was realized. This is understood and experienced by Guru Deva, who was also the person who understood and spoke about it. He did not say that Kapila was wrong. Then we could have double thing in our mind. What is true? But all the people, Jnaneshwar, Ramdas, Eknath, Tukaram, Maharaj, Adi Shankaracharya, Madhvacharya, everybody spoke about the same thing. That means this is from Shabda Pramana, which is called as Agama or Shruti or Ved, because they also speak Shruti only. So that is why our principle behind studying everything is na tarko pratishtham. Reasoning cannot help. Na tarko pratishtham. Shrutayo vibhinnaha. If I try to study Upanishad, contradictory things are given. Na tarko pratishtha. Shrutayo vibhinna. Na eko rushishya matar pramanam. If I take some Rushi and try to study that, then he will write something else. So na eko rushishya matar praman. Dharmasya tatvam nihitam guhaya. What is precisely dharma? This abhyasa is very difficult to know. Dharmasya tatvam nihitam guhaya mahajano yena gataha sapantaha. The big people, the realized souls, whatever they say is the right thing. So what we are, our vetting, our vouchsafing, as we call it, of this entire knowledge is coming from the realized soul who, Raman Maharshi, who comes and says, yes, this is precisely correct. So right now we are just believing in it. This is Shraddha, because we have not experienced it. But at least what we are believing, Sattva Guna should be inculcated, it is superior. And this you can see in your own life, because at a lowermost level also, it is true. If you are Sattva Guna, what do you mean by you are happy? When you say, today I was happy. What is happiness? Happiness is predominance of Sattva Guna. So try to do. You feel good when you help somebody. ये बेचारा को कुछ मिल नहीं रहा था खाना, मैंने उसको खाना खिलाया, अच्छा लगा is what? Sattva Guna. आज मुझे कुछ मत पूछो, I'm so much into commotion, it is actually mind boggling, how much. Rajo Guna. I'm very sad, I don't feel like doing anything, this is all stupid, the life is sucking, it is Tamo Guna. The gunas are at play at everywhere. Today you sat for the class and you understood the creation. What is it? Sattva Guna. No, it is difficult. It is not going inside my head. Why? Tamo Guna. Don't feel like sitting in the class. Sometimes I'm able to concentrate, but sometimes Rajo Guna. So the gunas are at play even at a normal level. Now, this is a very crude application of gunas, what we see. In sadhana, the finer applications of gunas come to the picture. More the sattva. Sattva is like light. More and more light. That is why Prakash is the word always used for Sattva Guna. That's why Gayatri Mantra, Bhargo Devasya, Bharga is effulgence. Aditi, Surya. Surya is considered because Surya is Prakash. Prakash is Bha. Bha is knowledge. Bha is Bharata. Bha is Bhargo. So that is why Sattva Guna is superior. We are following the people who are Mahajana. Mahajano Yena Gataha Sapantaha. And Mahajan kaun hai? Gurudev. Gurudev is Mahajana. Hari.
Sanjay, by inference, if Satgun is superior to Rajogun, then and Satgun led to creation of Gyanendriya, then the path to realization which uses Gyanendriya is superior to the path which will be used through, right? That's a fair inference.
Yes. Let us interpret it in a little different way. You do your puja and archana and everything with the help of your hands and feet, Rajoguna, right? But when you focus on the deity, Murti, Rajoguna is not working, Sattva is working. So Jnanendriyas are anyway superior. Can eye be compared to the hand? Eye has a wider capacity to give knowledge. Hand has a comparatively restrictive capacity to do the work. My hand cannot reach the mountain. My eye can reach the mountain. That is because Jnanendriya has a Sattva Guna component into it. But more than my eyes, my mind can go anywhere. Why? Further Sattva Guna into it. See now Sattva Guna, how dominance works. That is why whenever there is a Sattva Guna dominance, everything starts becoming clear and clear and clearer. That is why even in our daily life also, who stands first in the class? One with the Sattva Guna of highest order, because he is able to, and we call it his grasping is good. He is able to retain, memory is good. Memory is what? Pratibha, Smriti, Medha, everything is nothing else but manifestation. That is why Saraswati. When we say Saraswati, which color sari the Saraswati wears? White. White is color of Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna. Sattva Guna is white in color. Tamo Guna, black in color. Because it has dull, lethargy, sleep, sushupti, alasya, pramada. You wanted to write a word called karmendriya, and you write kramendriya. Karma becomes kra. Why the mistake? Tamo Guna. This is how gunas work. Are you?